progress under Blair and Brown, and I think it's going to continue. In Doncaster, I think what's very interesting about Doncaster, where I come from, it's a really small town, it's really boring, there's not much to do. Hence, male alcoholism is absolutely massive. Domestic violence is one of the worst, it's the worst area in Yorkshire for domestic violence is Doncaster. The police on average get 12 phone calls a day from a woman who's been abused. Now we know that another statistic, that women, it takes 35 attacks before they actually pick up a phone and ring. I did the maths, but I've left the figure somewhere, but that's a lot of attacks in a day, and you don't actually hear from the council or from the government trying to target this as a social problem, because that has a massive impact. There's a myth that domestic violence does not affect children. That is not true. I work in the most socially deprived school. We have children as young as 7 who've got massive mental health problems from deprivation and from abuse that they suffer in the home. Just looking at my notes, if that's okay. So, the other thing that I found out as well is, I don't know if people know this, but it is really an interesting fact. But in Doncaster, the public, that's the point I wanted to make, yeah. When you've got more social deprivation, the public sector expands to deal with that problem. And even though from the Thatcher years that tried to cut away and slice away the public sector, like for instance the attacked social workers, there's hardly any social worker, there's a reduction in social worker jobs and assistants and stuff like that. Even though they're trying to undermine it, they've still needed it. So for instance, 20% of jobs in any town are local government public sector jobs. That's doing services. In a town like mine, that goes up to 30% because there's deprivation. We need more social workers. We need more teaching assistants, so on. In Middlesbrough, in Redcar, where it's very poor, steel workplace, 43% of the population work for the public sector. Now, it's not going to make any sense if in Middlesbrough, they've just announced the closure of lots of jobs in the steelworks. That is going to mean more deprivation. When you start then cutting the public sector there, sorry Middlesbrough, but it's going to be hell on earth. I can't quite imagine what it's going to be like to live there really. And also, 68% of women across the country work for the public sector. 60% of those earn under £15,000. Now somebody might be able to answer this for me, but we're often told that in the public sector we're the richest. You know, we're a drain on society. You know, really the private sector, that's where it's at, you know. For teaching assistants, 40,000 of us in the country, no, there's maybe more, but 40,000, you know. None of us are on full-time contracts. We're on 68% of a contract. That means when we finish our work, if we stay at the same job, that means our pension is in 68%. We go straight into pension and poverty. That's on top of a lifetime of employment that we love. Majority of teaching assistants love their job, but they don't love the fact that they're low paid. And that brings me to another point. What was very interesting, the women sort of around who I work with and other female stewards in other departments in Doncaster, we were being urged by the regional organiser of Unison to vote Labour. Now all of us thought, chuck that, you're shutting the Show Start Centre down there. You know, you've done the war, there's like a million things, reasons why we should vote Labour. But as it got nearer to the deadline, all of us started remembering the miners' strike, the Thatcher years, we couldn't do it, we voted Labour. She said to me, you should feel really happy, you know, you should really vote Labour because you wouldn't have your job if it weren't for Labour. They introduced the teaching assistant role, really, the paid. But I reject that because basically they've given me a job, but they've given me a low paid job. And we've helped to build the economy on low wages. and we haven't benefited from the Blair and Brown years. And so I think it's really important that the Counterfire set up the Feminist Manifesto meetings. And I just think it's really important that, you know, my mum and my nana remembers the struggles and they talked about them and passed them on to me. I'm doing the same with my daughter and my son, just so he knows the right position. And I think we all sort of need to do that, and we all need to be doing that in his workplaces, in his colleges, with his family. Because if you think about it, if we make up majority of the public sector in every anti-cuts campaign group, in every coalition of resistance group, is mainly going to be, there's going to be a lot of women, and this is going to be a fantastic opportunity for us to defend ourselves, to defend this job, to defend this community and services, but also to fight for being seen as women and not just for as mothers and sex objects and everything else. Let's leave it at that.